Am I the bad one for leaving my husband after he gave away some of my baby's ashes? My daughter passed away in a tragic accident when she was 2 years old. At that time, my stepdaughter was still visiting regularly, and we had a decent relationship. We weren't close or anything, but I did my best to get along for the sake of my husband. She was 13 when my daughter passed away, and my stepdaughter's mother came to see my husband and me to ask if she could have some of my daughter's ashes to put in a keepsake for my stepdaughter. I immediately refused. Not only because my stepdaughter isn't responsible enough for something so important, but because I didn't like the idea of separating my baby's ashes at all. Since then, my stepdaughter has stopped visiting us as much, and it's been 3 years since my daughter passed away. My stepdaughter's mother came back to ask for more ashes because my stepdaughter had lost the keepsake a long time ago and was devastated by it. I was shaking because I was clear that I didn't want to separate her ashes and asked what she meant. She told me that after the initial conversation we had 3 years ago, my husband gave the ashes anyway to put in the keepsake. I confronted my husband about this and he shrugged, saying it wasn't a big deal. I packed my things, took my daughter's urn, and went to my sister's house. It's been 2 weeks since I left, and he's been flooding my phone with calls and texts, some begging and crying and others telling me I'm an idiot for overreacting. Today, a mutual friend sent me a screenshot of a Facebook post by my stepdaughter's mother saying that I'm punishing my husband for doing something nice for his only living child and that I'm just bitter. I'm heartbroken by this. Am I the bad one? P.S. I should clarify that during the initial conversation, I never said I wasn't open to having this conversation again at another time, once she was older and more mature. When discussing the arrangements for our daughter, we mutually agreed that she would be cremated only because neither of us knew where our final resting places would be, and we wanted her to be with us wherever we ended up, not buried just for the sake of being buried. We are both from different states from where we are currently residing, so neither of us was sure we wanted to be buried here. Most upvoted comments. Comment 1. The fact that he acted behind your back is a huge breach of trust. He could have backed you up by saying that she was too young for such an important keepsake and that he would ask you to reconsider when she was older. Also, the only living child comment was very malicious. As a mother, she knew what she was doing by saying that. Comment 2. NTA. First of all, you didn't want to separate your daughter's ashes, nor did you believe SD was responsible enough for something like that, and you were absolutely right. Your husband acted behind your back, and SD's mother is facilitating this behavior. This is not okay. This is your baby. You are the mother, and I can't believe your husband can't understand that your feelings are a bit more important in this situation. It's not to minimize his pain, but he should know better. Comment 3. NTA. Your husband and SD's mother are minimizing the importance of your daughter's ashes and your pain. It's not about being bitter or overreacting, but about respecting your child's memory and honoring your wishes as a mother. Opie's comment. I hope you never lose a child. You will never know the pain of daily reminders until it truly happens. I am over it, in the sense that I gave away her clothes, crib, and stroller. But should that mean I should give away the only tangible piece of her that is left to someone who clearly wasn't responsible for the first lot, like I expected? I would have been open to revisiting the conversation once I knew she could handle the responsibility, but the choice was taken from me. Edit. To clarify some questions I've been receiving. Yes, the baby is also my husband's. I use the term my baby because I'm speaking to you. We are not together. During the initial conversation about giving some of the ashes to my stepdaughter, my husband never expressed disagreement with me on this matter. He agreed and then acted behind my back. If he disagreed, why didn't he speak up at that time? And I never said that I wasn't willing to revisit the conversation in the future. This conversation literally came up the day the ashes arrived to us. SM and I have never gotten along. She thinks she has some sort of strange entitlement due to her previous relationship, and that has never sat well with me due to her constant boundary violations. My stepdaughter was 11 when I had her sister and was more interested in other things like her phone, friends, and school than in engaging with her sister. I tried to involve her in feeding, dressing, or playing with her sister, and they never connected. I'm not saying in any way that an 11 to 13-year-old should be responsible for a baby, just that I tried to foster that relationship. I do not dislike my stepdaughter. I'm not even upset that she lost the ashes. I was just pointing out that she wasn't responsible or mature enough to handle something so important. She loses money, jewelry, toys, etc. all the time. Her mother's wedding ring from her parents' marriage being the most prominent example. We have a coexisting relationship, not a mother-daughter relationship, as she stated she wasn't interested in having that with me, and that's okay. She has the right to feel that way. I'm not hoarding her ashes like a dragon with a pile of gold. When we made the arrangements for our daughter, my husband and I agreed that we wanted her to be buried with us, wherever we ended up. We both wanted her to be buried with us. We agreed on this. We've always had an incredible relationship, listening to each other's concerns and opinions. We rarely disagree, and when we do, we can generally compromise on important decisions. I can't have more children due to a complex medical procedure that left me sterile. SM, however, has 2 children in addition to my stepdaughter, so my daughter wasn't her only sibling, just the only one she shared with my husband. After reading the comments, I've asked my husband to come to marriage counseling with me. I'm not ready to forgive and forget, but I genuinely want to understand why he was so willing to act behind my back. I'm not sure how this chapter will end for us. Additional comment from the OP. It's not about taking the high road or blowing up my life or throwing away my marriage. I compromised on a lot of things. I had her clothes turned into bears and gave them to the family. There was even one made for SD. I gave my daughter's crib to SM's oldest daughter when she was pregnant with her own child. I donated the toys I had in the closet for Christmas that I bought for her to an angel tree. I left a memory and a legacy behind that she could be proud of. And the only thing I asked was for my daughter to be left whole, at least until SD was old enough and mature enough to understand the weight of the responsibility. I held her in the hospital when they told me there was nothing else they could do to save her. I paid for her cremation. I signed the papers at the funeral home. I am absolutely not blaming the child for behaving like a child. I am blaming the adults who went behind my back to prove me wrong and only proved me right. If I had made this post, but the outcome was that SD didn't lose the keepsake and I was still upset about it, then, absolutely, by all means, stone me like the witch you all think I am. But this isn't that fairy tale ending. She did lose them, just like I knew she would. And there is a chance that part of her will never be recovered. I don't care at all if you all think it's just sand, dirt, or dust. To you that may be all it is. For all I know, maybe that's all my husband thinks it is. But to me, it is the only tangible thing I have left of her. Not a piece of her furniture or an article of her clothing is left in my possession, not even a sock. I would be beyond happy and so excited if I had learned that he had given away her ashes to his daughter, and she still had the keepsake. The worst part about this is that there are people wishing vile, awful, and unspeakable things on me in these comments and in my DMs about a situation that you can only see a speck of. Unless you have felt lost the way that a child's loss hits you, there is absolutely no way you can judge me or how I reacted. There are women in these comments saying they would physically harm someone under the same circumstances or do worse to them, but I am an awful person because I took some space. I do not raise my voice to my husband or even curse at him. That is just not who I am or the kind of relationship I have built with him. So for him to call me an AH in the texts he sent me shook me to my core. He has never spoken down to me, mistreated me, or made me feel less of a person until these last 2 weeks, and they have been the hardest of my life.